Hello everyone. I'm not sure what this video is going to be exactly. I don't even know what title I'm going to choose for this video. Let's for now call it open mic, unplugged, chatty video talking about several different things. I'm going to include a few updates here. At this point, I'm not even sure if this is going to go open to all, or am I going to make this only for Newsbud and Patreon. So just let's take it spontaneously and hit a few topics here, including some of your questions, because yes, I do read your questions. I do collect them. And it is very difficult to answer these questions one by one. If I were to do that, I will be doing nothing else. And trust me, I have so many different things to do. Let's start with all this recent escalated purge by the social media, YouTube, even just Google search engine, because that is something that I have been keeping an eye on for several years, and that is when you go and you start searching either a person or a topic, how the results actually show up, and the difference between what we get today with the search engines, at least with Google, versus what it was like 15 years ago. A major difference. Hundreds, if not thousands, of very large YouTube channels have been blocked. People have been purged. And I have gone through this with you before about how this was so very expected. In fact, we have a recent video talking about the need for new entities, new platforms coming into play. So people have choice, okay? That is, I know some of you talked about, oh, it should be public in terms of public entity. And I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Do you mean state-owned, like it's funded with our taxes? If so, are you talking about a media organization like Pravda was during the Soviet Union? Or even, let's say, the United Kingdom and BBC. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean by, oh, it needs to be the public channel, so it's not for profit. I have lots of problems with this scenario, especially if you are referring to a government-owned entity, and meaning, yes, it is actually funded by the taxpayers, yet it is the state, it is the government that gets to decide what gets to be published and what it doesn't get to be published. I would say that would be the worst of the worst of the worst scenario, and that is that type of a public model, assuming you're referring to that. Now, as far as the nonprofit is concerned, I invite you to go and search many so-called alternative media channels, okay? And you will see that they are registered as 501c3, meaning they are non-profit, meaning they don't pay tax when they collect money to publish this supposed alternative news, information, etc. But when they say nonprofit, NGO, kind of an alternative media outlets, I don't want you to immediately think of, oh yeah, there are people who are contributing, some people are donating $100, some are donating $1, and they are publicly funded. No, they are not. When you're looking at any of these visible alternative media outlets, and I keep doing this when I say alternative because there is really nothing, absolutely nothing alternative about them. They are funded by the same exact group. I don't care which one it is. Go look at them. You see the same people, the same funders, whether it's George Soros, whether it's the Rockefeller's Foundation, Hewlett-Packard's Foundation, Carnegie Foundation, Bill Gates Foundation. You're looking at the deep state, you're looking at the billionaires through their foundations giving grants, okay, to these NGOs, the nonprofit alternative media outlets, and they call it alternative. Well, they are not alternative, and I'm not going to get into why they are not, because I assume all of you, understand that none of these models can be in any way considered alternative platforms. Now, I talked about businesses because when it comes to just the capitalism aspect of it and the issue of supply and demand, you would think, okay, with Google, etc., doing this, there will be other businesses popping up saying, hey, we're going to compete because we see that so many people are purged, so many people are disgusted, therefore it's a good timing, and let's set up a business to compete with these other tech businesses. Now, granted, for these types of platforms, if you're looking at film streaming or something like YouTube, you're looking at high cost, okay? When you're looking at even the floor cost of entry into this, if you're looking at a massive, big entity to compete with YouTube. So that means the entry is going to require major capital investment. And that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the people who talk about the notion of silent majority. And I'm going to get to this whole notion of silent majority because I have a lot of questions, okay, rhetorical questions about the notion of silent majority. But for now, what I was referring to in my previous video was, well, the other side, and let's consider them the majority, okay? And by majority, I mean people outside this entire paradigm of New World Order left. You're looking at, as far as mainstream media outlets are concerned, every single one of them. As far as the alternative NGO, not-for-profit organizations are concerned, you're looking at entities such as Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman, who receives $1.5 million a year just from George Soros alone. And when you go through the ones who are funding this NGO, Democracy Now!, you will hit every single one of those uber billionaire, mega corporatist people, okay? Again, Hewlett-Packard's, Rockefeller Foundations, etc., etc. So that's what I was talking about. And based on the comments posted on, under that video and the questions I have received via email, via private messaging through either Twitter or my Patreon, etc., I see that people viewed what I was talking about in so many different ways, which is healthy, which is good, because we receive information, we process it based on who we are and what we know. And it's normal for it to be interpreted in different ways. Second of all, I was exploring this whole notion of why we don't see in a free market or a supposed free market entry by other businesses. So that's what it was. Now, I want to talk about, and I want to have this as a discussion with you, this notion of silent majority. And let's say for now, let's talk about the United States, okay? Let's not go wide, international, global, okay? What do we mean by silent majority? Well, as far as majority portion of it is concerned, in order for it to be majority, of course, it can't be this based on the notion of Republicans, Democrats, okay? Let's say they are about half, 50%. So in that silent majority, the majority part of it, I put independent people like me who are not registered with one or the other party. I put people who are a mixture of different ideologies or value system and belief system. Again, let me give myself as an example for this. I mean, if I were to list my philosophy, political philosophy, or my view of the type of a government or nation system I ideally would like to see, you would see a mixture of ingredients that will have ingredients from actually several sides. There will be some libertarian, and that's not the libertarian as the Libertarian Party. I had a friend who used to refer to it as libertarian, not with the capital L, but with the lowercase l. And there will be some ingredients there that would be interpreted as liberal, okay? Now, I know some people have started tagging those as socialist, communist, and again, it's a free world. It's supposed to be a free world. You're free to think whatever you want to think. Nobody should force you to think in a certain way and say this way of thinking is so wrong. According to whom? Okay, these are the subjective stuff we are talking about. For me, if I were to throw certain notions here, and again, I'm not talking about party, Republicans or Democrats, the ingredients that will be perceived, interpreted out, these are liberal ideals, would be number one, there are certain things, okay? There are not too many, but there are certain things that should never ever be for profit. It shouldn't be privatized. That is my personal opinion. For example, a good example would be, this is a notion that I believe it only exists in this country, in the United States, the idea, the notion of private for-profit prisons. To me, that is one of the most immoral, disgusting operations, and that is based on your supposed justice system, because the prison system is part of it, for that to be for profit. For people making profit from people being sent to jail, people committing crime. And for these businesses, these are large businesses, right? They have their own lobbies, right? In order for them to make more profit and make more money, more people should be committing crime, more people should be arrested, more people should be sent to jail, imprisoned, and the decision that will be called by, let's say, the judges out there. So when they're going out lobbying, and these are, as I said, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars industry, private prison, and there are judges who are selected based on elections, so they run, and for their elections they do fundraising. So imagine these private prison companies, industry, pouring the money into the campaign to elect judges. So they want what? In order to have profit, they want tough judges, judges who are likely to ship people into prison, send them to jail, whether it's their second offense or first offense, whether it's because of 2 grams of marijuana. So just think about the implications. It is unethical, it is immoral. So to say that, hey, this should never ever be private, and some people will come and say, oh, you're a socialist, communist, or some people would label it and say it's a liberal notion. I said, okay, fine, that's a liberal ingredient, if that's what you want to call it. That's one. Another good example of it would be the healthcare, okay? When healthcare, all all of it, the entire what we refer to as healthcare in this country is corrupt, is driven solely, only by profit. First of all, healthcare is not a privilege. It shouldn't be a privilege. Unfortunately, it is. Here in our country, healthcare is a privilege, okay? Sure, there is Medicare for people who are over 62 or 65, so you take that and some Medicaid, all right? But then you look at the rest of it, and the whole industry is broken. Not only that it is private for profit, it's also corrupt. How is it corrupt? You have these entities, it's another industry, the insurance companies, okay? And what they do is, with how they do it, they do things, they drive the prices so high, which what we see today, and it is unreasonably, illogically high, okay? When you're looking at the cost, okay, the cost of, all right, you go to the emergency room or you go to your doctor and a few things done, you're there for 20 minutes, and for what you got, you have spent several $100s, and that's 30 minutes of. Then you're looking at this being above and beyond of the actual cost. Even if you were to build in the profit margin in that, you're looking at something that is insane. Insane. Look at the breakdown of costs for people who are getting these bills from hospitals. Just the little plastic cups where they bring your Advil, they put, 2 Tylenols or Advils, you take it, you swallow it. Well, the cost of that plastic, right, that little plastic container, disposable one, is about 5 or 7 cents. But people who go and analyze the bills they are getting from the hospitals across the nation, they see that that is listed as a minimum of $18 item. What makes the pricing such that a 7-8 cent little container, disposable plastic container, instead of being cited, let's say it's 8 cents, let's say they put $1.50 or $2, okay, several 100% profit. Let's say they put it for $3, $4, okay, but they are marking that this ridiculous 2-digit numbers, dollar amounts that makes you stop and say, what happened? Why this system works the way it works? Why is it so corrupt? Because there are these insurance companies, they drive the cost up. You're looking at the college loans. So you look at someone who says, look, I spent $400,000, $500,000, right, to become a doctor. And therefore, as soon as I'm out there practicing, I'm going to be charging this much in order to make up for all the money I spent for the college loans, the university loans, but also I'm entitled to get that. And a good example of this would be, I was in New Zealand for about 4.5 months, and we had to go to a doctor's office for something. I don't remember exactly what it was. This was about 10, 11 years ago. And this great doctor came and we got really good service, etc. The problem that we had was resolved, but we were discussing politically this healthcare system in the United States, the cost of it, the bills there. And she said, one of the things that we talk about here as doctors in New Zealand is we go into this profession based on mostly idealism, because everybody knows in New Zealand, and that's the case almost anywhere in the world. My father was a well-known doctor, he was a surgeon, and same thing in Turkey, etc. You know that you will never be poor. You will definitely guarantee a good, solid middle class, maybe slightly above middle class life, but nobody ever gets into the field of medicine, becoming a doctor, because they want to be so rich, they want to have Lamborghinis and mansions, etc. It is one of those professions, teaching is part of that too, similarly. that you do it because you are serving the humanity. Yes, you're not going to starve, you're not going to be poor, but you can never be rich in 99% of the world by becoming a doctor. You want to become rich, you become a businessman. Well, here the two have become the exact same thing, okay? They have become the exact same thing, meaning you become a doctor because you want to be rich, because that's what you want. You want to be very wealthy, and it's one of those professions that guarantees that you're going to be very, very wealthy. Anyhow, I don't want to really go really too much in details. I could have a filibuster like video here and really talk about this for hours, but let's not do that. But I would put the fact that healthcare should not be a privilege. Now, some of you who may scream, this is communism, socialism. Again, you're entitled to your opinion, but to fix this, even those of you who are going to stamp me and label me as the socialist communist because I don't believe healthcare should be a privilege, would agree that our system of healthcare is broken. There is a reason with their lobbyists, these pharmaceuticals, they prevent us from importing medicine, okay, whether it's for certain cancer, whether it's for pain medication, from even a place like Canada that is 1/10 of a price as, let's say, it is here in the United States. They have the lobby, so they put that ban. They lobby the Congress because Congress is not there to serve us, right? We don't lobby Congress. My viewers here, I don't believe a single one of you have been out there lobbying Congress. So the lobbyists who lobby the Congress, these are all major mega corporations, and the Congress serves them. So let's take us out of it, we the people, and say Congress and the big business and the federal government, the triage entity, okay? It is a broken healthcare system. It is insanely priced. It's not affordable. A lot of people are suffering as a result. I know even those of you who are going to label me as a socialist communist would agree that it's broken. And I invite you to come up with solutions, possible ways of fixing it. I'm not saying it should be all part of some big federal government entity, the healthcare, and very similar to what they had in the Soviet Union, right? In Russia before 1990s. But how else can we get it fixed? Should it be maybe mostly local, state-based services? Is it something that can be broken into state and local units? Whatever ideas you may have, I cannot see anyone who would disagree and say we have a great healthcare system, okay? And that, again, as I said, that ingredient for some of you may belong to the liberal category. That's fine. We'll put it in there. Private prison, military, okay? Military. Privatized military. I'm not talking about only mercenaries, right? I'm talking about the contractors, subcontractors, where it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest lobby, where entities make profit, big profit, because wars happen. Or because wars are created, right? Because wars are initiated. That notion, again, for me, not because of sound foreign policy, not because it's part of a country's defense, but solely it is a moneymaker, right? War, destructions, war, human lives lost, right? A war, casualties, whether it's by death or by people who lose their arms and legs, etc., meaning profit. And it comes again with one of the biggest lobby in this country, because these entities, livelihood, big margin profits, they are billionaires, comes from if we have lots of wars, meddling, the synthetic terrorism, false flag, all of that, I'm going to put it under the same umbrella. And not only that, it's also it also goes to the heart of real national security. Okay, you're looking at your defense, your military system, and if so much of it is outsourced to privatized companies, and those companies, the chances of some of those actually being in cahoots with some other countries and everything is extremely high. So that presents conflict of interest, and of course the issue of this immoral, insane profit based on destruction, based on worth. So I would put that in that bucket of liberal ingredients as far as who I am. Then there are conservative elements I have. When it comes to my personal family life, okay? When it comes to raising my children, when it comes to, there are a lot of things that I consider myself conservative. And again, I'm proud of it. I am part conservative, I am part libertarian. There are ingredients of what constitutes liberal notions, right? Healthcare, that I have those. So when I say the silent majority, right? I don't mean, oh, okay, all the conservatives or all the Republicans. I mean independents, mixed bags, people like me, libertarians. So that's what I mean for the majority part of it. The other thing is the silent portion of it. And this is something I have been thinking about quite often in the past few months. We know how we use this, right? The mainstream media is catering for that very minute new world order left, right? And the same thing with Hollywood. The same thing with Netflix. This is for the movie entertainment industries, right? Publishing houses for books, and even the social media platforms. We all agree, right? They don't represent and they don't serve as a business, these are businesses, the majority. And why this majority has been so silent? That is my question. It's one thing to say, sure, they are quashing our voices, those companies, right? YouTube Purge, that's how I started this video. Publishing houses, the books, incredible, good, solid sound, okay? With the promise of profit, books written by conservative people or libertarian people that don't get to be published because the publishing houses, they are subjective, and their subjectivity only cuts one way, and that is, these are the kinds of books we're going to publish, the ones that promote the idea of the left, etc. Social media, again, businesses, all right? Well, okay, fine, I agree. They're quashing. But that's not all. You have to go beyond and above that, saying, of course they're going to quash because these people only represents that minute minority, right? The one that is running this country, at least its mainstream media and social media and the movie industry and the entertainment industry, etc. Silent, because a lot of it is by choice. Here it is, going back to the video report, the video I had just a week, 2 weeks ago. When I asked and I said, well, among this silent majority, aren't there many successful, let's say in hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars value or the financial ability, people who are from the other side? Why haven't they, and I'm asking it again, why haven't they been spending their money for these types of businesses and for profit? I'm not saying, oh, they're gonna just go out of idealism and they are doing it in order to further the conservative or the libertarian or the green values. I'm talking about it's also a matter of profit. I mean, YouTube, you don't believe YouTube is also driven by profit, or Amazon or Netflix, right? Think about it. With Netflix, there was this whole case of It's Disgusting, Cuties, this film, and we got several million people. The last time I read was 2-point-something million people. They unsubscribed from Netflix. They said, you know what, this is disgusting, I'm going to boycott this, which is great. This is exactly what the market is supposed to be about. Meaning, you don't serve my needs for entertainment or for my children, because I don't want my children exposed to this or that, right? When you have a situation like this in a free market, in a capitalist society, there should be businesses that cater for these people, especially when we have already put the label on it and say majority, okay, silent majority. Why aren't there businesses doing that? Same thing for publishing houses. We have there, okay, they have been consolidated, and you are looking at 4 or 5 maximum mega publishing houses, every single one of them the Uber New World Order left. We don't have one, forget about 4 or 5, for the silent majority publishing house. Well, think of it in terms of profit again. If it's the majority, which it is, right, and you are that one publisher, considering this whole market situation of supply and demand, not only that you're going to further that, let's say, conservative or the libertarian, whatever it is, ideology, but by doing that, you are serving that demand, and therefore there's going to be profit, so it's good for business as well. What I'm trying to say is not either or. What I'm trying to say is, part of that portion of being silent majority, yes, they are quashing it, but you have to go above and beyond that and say, well, what are the businesses utilizing this market, just from the market aspect of it? And that was the question I was asking out loud in my previous video. Then there is another type of silence, and that is willful. People swallowing their words, right? People censoring themselves. Various reasons. A lot of it can be actually put and categorized under this political correctness, right? Being politically correct, which is actually one of the worst forms of censorship. And then the other one, which is again within that political correctness, is this fear or nervousness about, well, what will people think about me? I'm going to lose supporters if, let's say, I'm an influencer and I'm preparing YouTube videos, etc. It's like politicians, you know, they don't say what they think. They basically want to say what they think people expect and people want them to say. So you never know what they think. Well, I think we, the people, many of us are doing that. So we are inflicting this adjective silent, okay, on ourselves. And you would say, well, if I say that, I will be kicked out of Twitter. I'm like, okay, I would get kicked out of Twitter. I don't silence myself. Look, this video, okay, I don't even know right now if it's going to be only for my communities or if it's going to be open to all, but let's say it's open to all. Here it is on YouTube. Now, YouTube may kick me out as a result of saying these things, whatever I have been saying so far. Don't you consider your stand, your value system, your thought process, your belief system valuable, important enough to say, I stand by it? Some people obviously don't. And that is something I don't understand, because I've never been like that. You can ask me any question, right? Any question, and I would be answering it bluntly. I have been doing this for almost 20 years, okay? I know what happens. I can give you an example. My community, Newsbud. I have had this community since its Boiling Frogs post days, since 2009. So it's been around for 11 plus years. And there are times, and this is mainly for my more recent subscribers at my Newsbud community, I talk about a topic, and in that topic, for that topic, let's say if it's healthcare, right? It ends up sounding liberal, or oh my God, she's now socialist communist. She said, oh, we need to have a healthcare system different than what we have, is broken. Therefore, she is socialist communist. Here I am. I'm going to go and I'm going to cancel my subscription. I'm going to punish you. Well, they cancel, they go. But then I get 2 subscribers who are on the other side. So there are people who fluctuate that way because they can't stand anything that they perceive is on the, from the other side. But I say it. I don't go and say, okay, I don't want to talk about this because if I talk about this, I'm going to lose so many subscribers. So I better not, or I better tread carefully on these topics. I don't do it. I mean, I honestly value my own stand enough to say I won't change it based on how the wind is blowing or the direction of the wind or the direction of my viewers. I just say it as it is. And it's not a popular thing to do. I know it is not a popular way of doing things. You will never get to this, oh my God, you're so successful and popular because you're so blunt and you're undiplomatic. Well, but I am who I am. And I accept who I am, and I act as I am. Let me put it that way. I know I just said lots of I, but you know what I'm talking about. I think it is way past time for us, the people, all of us, to stop being silent. So think about it. If YouTube has hundreds of millions of accounts there, and if everybody were to do that, and if they were to go and purge all these people, well, considering the fact that we are the silent majority and there's majority part of that, well, YouTube will go out of business. What makes YouTube a mega corporation is based on its market share, saying we have 2 billion subscribers. I'm just throwing numbers here, okay? Or the same thing with Netflix. So by refusing to remain silent, I think we can accomplish a lot of things. And this is positive talk here. This is positive thinking here. Let me give you one example. People say, oh, because this is one issue that it's time for me to talk about it on Diplomatics. They say, Sibel, how come you don't talk about Israel enough? You don't talk about Israel. I tell you why I don't talk about Israel, even though I have done a lot of talk on Israel, especially Israel lobby, in my 20 years of public life. Okay, more than 100 times during interviews, etc., because I have been tackling all these lobby issues, whether they are the military-industrial complex, when the balance is so way off, right? Whether it's the big pharma lobby, whether it's the intelligence industrial complex, whether it's Israel lobby. These are major lobbies we are talking about. The reason I don't talk about it a lot has to do with what happens afterwards in the comment section. And I am sensitive to that. Not because I'm politically correct, because I am not politically correct. I've never been politically correct. Ever. I mean, really ever. I'm just trying to think. Have I been on any topic politically correct? And I can't think of any. But the way the forum, the comment section becomes when it comes to Israel is what turns me off. So I feel so not motivated to talk about some of these issues, Israel lobby or even certain practices in Israel. It is that ugly name calling where people start targeting people's religion. Because when I say Israel lobby, okay, or particular administration, or like let's say Netanyahu or Israel government, that's okay. But when people, they come and say, oh, you know, it's all because of these Jews, and that is so offensive to me, not because of politically correctness, because it's ugly, it's offensive, and it's not only for Jews. It is for Muslims, it's for Hindus, it's for Christians, and within Christianity, it's for when people go and call people names because they're Catholics, you know. I find that offensive, again, not because of political correctness, it's because people's value system, people's religion, which is their belief system, it's their spiritual belief system. Whether I agree with that particular religion, whether it's mine or not, it is not an issue. People have the right. People have the right to their religious, spiritual, faith-related belief. And nobody should be rude and ugly and inconsiderate enough to attack anybody based on their religion. And I have seen that it has happened every single time the issue of Israel comes. Instead of engaging in healthy debate and discussion and tackle this issue of ridiculous operations taken on by these lobbies, Israel lobby, etc., in the country, right, in the United States, including their influence on the media operations, mainstream media, etc., I'm all for talking about that. But I don't want to be in this position of blocking and deleting people who are simply, they're hate-filled. They are so hateful. They are so hateful. They are either hateful towards Hindus or hateful towards Christians or Muslims or Jews, and they go and they target this, I don't want to say holy, it's a sanctity of somebody's belief. And I don't like to discuss people's religious belief, whether it is compared to this religion, is this or that, at the dinner table either, because again, as I said, it's a personal belief, it's the spiritual system, it's your faith, and nobody should ever, that's my belief, okay, nobody should ever attack someone for their race, for their color of their skin, for their religion, and again, not because of political correctness. I talked about BLM, right? I talked about those stuff. Now, again, people on the left will say, oh my God, she's a racist for saying that, which it was not. It had nothing to do. BLM had nothing to do with race. In fact, it had everything to do with people who are so racist, who are taking advantage of a group, manipulating them into doing things that benefits not them, in fact it damages them, but this 0.001% interest agenda. Okay, so that is for political correctness. I had another question by several people about, well, Sibel, how do we address this? The way they are purging people from Twitter, they are doing it from YouTube. We should brainstorm more often because it's an end of an era, that initial era of internet where all these platforms started and it was so promising to a lot of people, and that is coming to an end. It is becoming very similar to what it is in China, believe me or not, where it's controlled. Because it really, at the end, it doesn't matter whether it's controlled by government, that's the publicly owned taxpayers funded media, Pravda, let's say. So the government dictates what's going to go out there. Or it is controlled by the 0.001% interest groups, whether the interest being the big pharma or the military industrial complex, or etc. The end result is the same thing. You are censored, people are censored, and the information is changed into propaganda because it is there to represent a certain 0.1%, 0.001% agenda. Then it becomes automatically, by default, it's a propaganda. And that's exactly what we are seeing, whether when we are using the search engine, whether we are watching something on YouTube, whether the most popular tweets out there or Facebook, no different than CNN, okay? No different than NPR, okay? So yes, we have to challenge this, and I have been saying it for years and years, and no, I'm not here taking credit saying I did, okay? That's beside the point. I'm not saying I was such a genius, which I was. No, I'm just kidding. For years, and I can go ahead and send you the links, okay? Whether from my own website, and this is at least 6-7 years ago. I said, don't count on YouTube and Facebook. Look at their owner. Look at Zuckerberg, okay? Look at this. This may look like, oh, it's a free channel. Anybody can do that, but this is temporary. Okay, and the people who operate these platforms, they represent that 0.001%. Therefore, I encourage everyone who wanted to be in the business of journalism, politics, geopolitics, to have independent website if they can, which is not impossible, it's possible. It increases a little bit the cost and the amount of time you spend having your own servers. Does it make it bulletproof, meaning they can't pull you out? Of course it doesn't, okay? I just got a bunch of notification from my new community at Patreon saying that Patreon has been eliminating a bunch of accounts, again, based on the political agenda. And so yes, they can do that too, but it gets a little bit harder, or at least we have a longer lasting period than, let's say, putting all our eggs in one basket and being on YouTube. And the reason I keep distinguishing and saying for journalism, for media that it deals with politics and geopolitics and these issues, because look, there are successful channels out there, let's say on skincare, on makeup, and there are influencers out there. They don't have to fear what that YouTube is going to get rid of them. I don't know what they would say with their makeup techniques, etc., that would get them banned. So it's okay if you are within that type of topic, operation that involves cooking or travel or makeup or skincare or whatever, dieting, nutritional related websites. It's a great place. It's free, okay? And you may even make a little money by the ads that YouTube pops there and shares it with you. And the chances of you being eliminated, being kicked out is slim to none, okay? So I'm not saying it's for everything, but I always distinguish. Same thing with NGOs. I've always distinguished and said nonprofit governmental organization, NGO, okay? 501c3, you're tax exempt. Okay, if you want to have a soup house and feed homeless, absolutely, I have perfect. Okay, why should you pay tax? You're getting donations, you are taking that money after you pay the people, managers and the operators in your NGO, you're feeding people, or you're collecting books and sending to people who can't afford it in some other countries, etc. So that NGO 501c3 is perfectly fine for those types of non-governmental operations. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. But NGO doesn't mix with politics when it comes to geopolitics and politics, because then you're looking at the conflict of interest. Let's say you're doing it for the whistleblowers, as I was doing, right? I didn't go and set up a 501c3 because my government whistleblowers blew the whistle on whom? On the government, right? The government agencies. So you go and set up a 501c3 non-governmental organization. You say, okay, great, so I can get donations and I don't have to pay tax. You're at risk. You're at a very, very, very high risk. Why? Sure, government says you don't have to pay tax on that, but government holds your strings. When you look at 501c3s, legal requirements, both for IRS purposes, etc., and you look at all those little footnotes and the little small footnotes there at the end of each page, you see that they can come after you. They can get you once you are registered as 501c3 and when you're tax exempt, and once you are tax exempt, there are so many little hooks, invisible-ish hooks, not too invisible, but you have to be an attorney, you have to be a high-level accountant to really understand the ramifications, because people like us, well, we're going to say, what the heck is that? Because each section is referring to another section 48, based on the section 48, chapter B rule. Well, we don't know what is section 48, chapter B, whatever statute of certain law, right? But they are there. So sure, they're not going to go, unless they are crooks, they're not going to go after this guy who has set up a soup house with an NGO, but you bet if you're representing government whistleblowers, right? And you're a government oversight related entity or a media, okay? And media that is reporting not like the mainstream media and the so-called alternative media outlets, but you're reporting for the silent majority, then the government can find, especially if you're successful, dozens, if not hundreds of ways to come after you and say, guess what? You're going to go to court and we're going to take you to court. You violated the subsection C of the section 49, which says you can't engage anything that constitutes lobbying, right? Now, they won't do it for people who are part of the 0.01%. They can do all the lobbying. And the IRS, the federal government, is not going to go after them. But just wait. If you do it, tiniest bit, let's say you go to your Congress in Florida and you say, okay, I have this many signatures on the mask mandate. I'm just throwing a topic here, okay? So let's say you do that. They're going to say, this constitutes lobbying, therefore you're in violation of this and this and this under our 501c3 rule, and you're going to go to court. Oh yeah, but you have to go and hire attorneys, pay the $350 per hour. You and I can't do that. Maybe a maximum of 10 hours attorney work, which is not going to get you anywhere. And you may even go to jail, okay? You're fined and you go to jail, etc. This is what I mean. What I mean by there are certain things such as politics, geopolitics, and government watchdog related activism, and the whistleblowers, government whistleblowers related activism, right? Speaking of that, I told you this is going to be spontaneous. I just saw that a whistleblower from a private company got something like $114 million from the federal government for blowing the whistle. And it was some financial fraud that this whistleblower in this company went to government, went to SEC, and reported it, and the government went after that private company, and they must have collected billions of dollars in fines for this whistleblower's share to be $114 million. I was chuckling, not like a happy, smiley chuckle. It's just the whole notion of hypocrisy is that, sure, if you're a whistleblower with a private company, the government here in the United States, not only they would not retaliate against you and protect you against the retaliation to a certain degree by that private company, so let's say even if you're fired, but they have this incentive built into this notion that you report this private company and the government goes after them based on their violations and fines them, the government will reward you, the whistleblower. And in this particular case, this whistleblower got $114 million, okay? $114 million. Now think about it. Who do you go to when you're blowing the whistle on the government, right? That is, Not only you won't get a penny, you get fired, and in my case, it was going and being hooked to the lie detectors, polygraph test, and harassment of the family. But I accumulated, my legal fees accumulated to close to $300,000. Yeah, these attorneys charge $300 per hour. And you're on your own, and they have the federal government under their thumb. So the difference between, if you're going to be a whistleblower, right, make sure you're not a government whistleblower. Not that I'm advocating for that, but that's the message, right? And it reeks with hypocrisy. Now, as far as the questions go, I know I was going to talk about the possibility of October surprise, because we have more or less a week to go for the month of October. Today is the 24th, and let's say if this Hunter Biden laptop was the October surprise that the Republicans, the right, pulled. We haven't really had any October surprise kind of a move from the left. So we have only a week to go for the month of October. So because, hey, in order for it to be the October surprise, it has to happen in October. It won't count if it happens on November 1st. What I'm trying to say is, I was going to talk about that, but I don't want to make this longer than it already is. I will have a separate video. I'll record that tomorrow, hopefully, for my communities at Newsbud and Patreon. But one other question I had from multiple people had to do with, it's hard, and I understand where you're coming from. Those of you who ask this question, you're saying, look, I'm supporting you, Sibel Edmonds, and your independent platform, and I'm paying $9 per month at Newsbud. Well, that's like, okay, $100 plus a year. And there are some people who are supporting me, let's say on Patreon, and they're paying $5 a month, etc. And of course, it's only me, singularly me, Sibel Edmonds. And then there are maybe 2-3 other journalists that you love, you trust. Journalists, analysts who resonate with you, right? So if you were to go and support same thing, those people like $5 there, $9 there, whatever there, well, especially now with COVID, times are tough. We are going through all this economic crisis, unemployment is like skyrocketing. They're like, well, what are the possibilities? What is the possibility of you and several other great journalists of my choice, that's what they like, the ones I love, I wish you could come together, right? And form a coalition in one independent website. So I could come and gladly pay that $9 or $10 a month. And with that, we would have more people, of course, coming and support all of you. So maybe there will be 5 journalists reporting from the same independent platform with your own servers for that website, let's say Newsbud. I tried that in the past. This is the answer. This is my answer. I tried that. I have tried that in the past. Things get so complicated partly because of the human nature, okay? Because what happens is you get more than one person, 3, 4, 5 people. Then you have personalities involved. You may get X who doesn't like Y, because Y may be libertarian, X may be independent or conservative, right? Or you get to the issue of what I call the ego clashes, meaning, look at this, I am the one who's driving. 72.4% of the people who are donating or subscribing is because of me, that kind of a thing. And then it's like, okay, or I'm doing this much work, you're doing 2 articles per month. How are we going to divide? It just gets so tedious. The internal bickering and conflict, the egos clashing, then the clash of ideologies, and it just, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting too old. I don't have that patience. I don't have neither the time or inkling or the patience to do that. To do that if I have to put it together. Let me put it this way. But yes, if somebody else is gonna be in charge, I hate managerial related things because I'm one of those people who has always worked solo. You know, whether it's with my education or my contract work as an analyst, I am not a person who likes to be managed or to manage other people. I don't want to manage, and because I don't like it, I suck at it. I don't like someone to tell me how to do things. I'm sensitive to that too, you know. I mean, suggestions, yes, but for someone to micromanage me, that would drive me bananas, okay? I go nuts with situations like that. But, I mean, there may be some people who have a good way of, without having to micromanage, put certain coalition together. Again, with servers, autonomous servers and website, and say, okay, we're gonna operate as 5 journalists or 5 analysts for geopolitics and politics, right? And here are these people. So you all come and you support that. Would I be interested in something like that? Probably. I mean, if it's, as I said, if they have a very good, innovative way of management, so it's not micromanagement, and if I don't want to say like, because look, I can respect some other journalist with his or her ability, with his or her knack or specialization and expertise, and not like his personality, which I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to see that person. I don't have to associate with that person. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, let's say, what if one of the journalists, I'm just trying to be not too abstract and make it a little bit more specific. And one of the journalists happens to also work for this NGO that is totally funded by George Soros. Okay, and he's this fella, I can't think of a name, but I'm not going to throw names here. He's this fella getting his PhD, and he's also on the side journalist. I don't want to be in the same bucket because I am a very rigid person when it comes to collaborations like that. I have managed to keep my nose clean, pretty much. And I know how quickly things can get contentious with things like that. And so respect, meaning, yes, I have to respect the person, knowing that that person is truly independent, financially independent, not with ties and strings attached to what I refer to or who I'm referring to as evildoers, the 0.001%, or the New World Order left, okay? I can't stomach that either. First of all, there are like hundreds, thousands of them through mainstream media and very, very handsomely funded NGOs. Why would you go and support those kinds of people in an independent new website, right? They are already loaded because the big money is funding them. So I don't know, to answer your questions, especially getting older and getting less tolerant, more tolerant in so many ways, and that's one of the great things that comes with age. But I have to say, I have gotten less tolerant on other things. And one of them is, when I was telling you, I don't care about being politically correct or diplomatic and swallow and sit on my words. I just like to be able to say what I think. Especially if I'm asked. And I don't like to sugarcoat things either, and sometimes me being blunt may come across to some people as arrogant. Fine, if you want to think I'm arrogant, you're free, you can think there's no popularity contest, okay, in this field of journalism as far as I'm concerned, okay? Look, if I want to be popular, and if I'm willing to fake it, right? If I'm willing to fake it, I can even take this, what is it? This despicable, are you listening to me, YouTube? This despicable YouTube channel. Put some videos in there and hit the 100,000 viewships. You know how easy that is? Okay, I'm not talking about, oh yeah, by my look or anything. No, you go and pick the title, and that is like title picking. So you are hitting a certain demographic and it's splashy. It may not have anything to do with what you're covering, but hey, sexy title, saying I don't know, breaking emergency, and then do BS topics. Okay? BS topics. We are being programmed on our microwave, is brainwashing us, and after it's brainwashing us, it's loading programming bunch of crap into our brain. Things like that. And believe me, within the first 24 hours, anybody, I'm not talking about only me, would hit that whatever, 2 million views. Because there is a market. There are many people out there who have nothing to do than those kinds of things, okay? So I don't do that because it's not about popularity. It's not about the number. I've always said with everything, I am not after quantity. I'm after the quality. Quality. And I mean, that applies to everything I have in my life. I want to eat, okay? I would rather not to go grab food outside 6 days out of a week. I'm just throwing numbers here. But that one time when I go and eat out and I'm dining, oh, I'm finicky. I don't want a huge platter with 4 glob of the mash. No, I want it to be exquisite. I want it to be the highest quality of whatever meat it is I'm eating, the presentation, the textures. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. And it may be a small plate, very tiny, but it's quality. Same thing here. I want it to be quality. And it is hard to find that out there, especially when we are talking about a potential, possible independent, new independent platform. And with all that said, I will still try to be open-minded. So if you're making these suggestions, be more specific and says, look, there is so and so getting together, putting these servers together, and they're gonna do this. And they would like to, we would like to have you part of that, maybe as a contributor, etc. Okay, I'll listen and I'll check them out, okay? I'll go and, okay. It won't be like a casual, I'll check them out. That's not how it's gonna go, because I am a research buff, right? My life is all about research. So yeah, whoever are the journalists, I will be doing background check on them. I will be digging and digging, trying to see that they are clean, okay? Clean, C-L-E-A-N, clean. And if they are nonpartisan, and if they are, clean and nonpartisan and professional, see, that also matters. Professionalism meaning, okay, I mean, you don't go and throw too many foul words. I mean, because I want to be able to have the entire family of my viewers to listen to or watch my analysis on, let's say, Turkey or Syria, right? Or people who, I want people to be professional and have integrity and care about presenting that information in a professional manner. I'm not saying jazzy and very fancy setup or anything, but it doesn't take fancy stuff. It's just be, I don't know what the word would be, elegant, be respectful, be mindful, but don't self-censor. Don't be politically correct so that you don't say what you think or your analysis hinges upon being politically correct. That is garbage. That is a censored garbage once you do that. Okay, I believe I have talked about so many different things, and as I said, this is spontaneous, this is casual, this is being unplugged, this is being comfortable with you and saying what I think, answering some of your questions. I'm not even sure if I answered them fully and completely or not. Probably you will let me know. And I am very, very, very thankful to my community members at Newsbud and also my new community at Patreon. I have wonderful people there, and it's their support. Through their support, I am able to work and produce videos and research and produce analysis. So I'm thankful to my communities. And I want to leave you with this thought, and that is what I started talking about at the beginning of this video: silent majority. Let's take that silent part and drop it, okay? We need to accept responsibility. We are responsible. Only you can silence you. Sure, mainstream media have them silence you, but you won't be silenced. You may be silenced on mainstream media, but there are so many other places you can get your voice heard. I mean, whether it's within your families or your communities or whatever, your work, don't be silent. Drop that word silent, okay? Majority. And again, I'm not referring to any race, I'm not referring to any religion. I'm referring to tens of millions of us, over 100 millions of us, who see through this rigged system. Republicans. Oh, speaking of Republicans, I've always been independent all my life, right? I have to add this because this is important. It was so important for me because I was outraged. I don't know how it happened. Maybe it was malicious or maybe it was by accident, but those of you who've been following me, I recently moved to Florida. So as part of going for my driver's license, I had to do this voter registration card, even though I haven't voted for several voting terms. And I always have been independent. I have always been independent. This is like, and I will always be independent. Hey, I may be supporting someone who is Republican or someone who is Democrat if that person is good. I don't know. Once upon a time, 2008, I was supporting Ron Paul. Ron Paul happened to be Republican, even though I saw him to be more leaning towards libertarian, whatever. Or there are people from Democrats that I may say, hey, this is a good person, and these three objectives this person has, I completely agree with. So I'm not a partisan person. I've always been independent. I registered. It was very quick. And this lady was helping me fill out because it's like, okay, here it is. I was in a hurry. Well, I just received my voter's registration card. It came 2 days ago, and it's listed me there as a Republican. And I don't have anything against people who are Republican or Democrat. I'm not, because I think both parties are corrupt. Both parties are disgusting, okay? Not the people, I'm talking about party. You know, the Democratic National Committee, the Republican. I mean, to me, Nancy Pelosi makes me gag, okay? Well, so is Lindsey Graham, okay? That guy, he gives me heebie-jeebie. I mean, that's one scary dude. And by that, I mean, to me, I perceive him as a sociopath, psychopath, oily, sleazy kind of a person. And the same disgustingness for Pelosi. Okay, one is Democrat, one is Republican. So what I'm saying is I'm party neutral. It is not about the party. Republicans and their whatever it is has nothing to do with any ideology and principles when it comes down to it, okay? Anyhow, I'm not going to get into that. What I was trying to say was, yes, I have to now go and make sure they correct my voter's registration ID card because they mark me there as Republican. I never told anybody to mark a Republican or Democrat. Was it intentional? I don't know. Whatever it is, I have to fix it. So it will be back to neutral again. And neutral shouldn't necessarily mean wishy-washy. You know, like what is that Willie Nelson song that I like? Don't mess with Mr. In-Between. I don't like these people who can't make up their mind. Whether they're in a restaurant and they want to choose from the menu, they order and then the waiter or the waitress is taking down the order. Like, wait a second, I changed my mind. I'm going to have this one. And then they're like, no, actually, I hate that. I mean, it gets on my nerves. I get, ugh. Same thing. I have my firm opinions on many things. There are things I don't know enough. And if I don't know enough, I try not to jump in conclusion and form an opinion based on no information or very little information. But once I'm informed, I am pretty set, and I say, okay, this is what I believe, and I told you that's on the private prison system, on the healthcare system, etc. On Syria, on Turkey, I will give you firm answers. But so it's not being in between, it's not being wishy-washy, it's being neutral, because knowing or believing, it's my belief that both parties are corrupt, both parties are disgusting, and those people, those representatives, those candidates, congressional people, honestly, being so actively involved, I spent so much time in Congress between 2001 and 2008. There is no difference. I mean, there are differences like cosmetic window dressing differences, but not much. And I don't subscribe to either parties. Thank you all. Those of you who chose to listen to this unplugged, spontaneous chat, I felt chatty, I guess. Thank you for being patient. And thank you for being tolerant, because one of the things that we should be is being tolerant, and not to be so quick to hate and spew hate and throw criticism around to say, you know, I remember Sibel 15 years ago. I think she has matured up. She used to be much more hot-headed. I have heard that a lot as well, that I don't come across as hot-headed as used to be. Maybe I'm controlling it better on camera. No, really. I have, I wouldn't call it mellow, but you know what I'm talking about. We all tolerate each other. I mean, we enjoy certain things. There are certain things that we may not like, but we can say, okay, we'll be tolerant about that. And I thank you for your support, and I'll be with you soon, very soon, probably tomorrow, to talk about, and that will be exclusive definitely for my Newsbud and Patreon communities, to talk about October surprise possibilities that if it's going to come out, is going to happen in the next 7 or 8 days max. Thank you all, and I'll be with you soon.